Account sharing is a kind of nice form of fraud. It is one of the few forms of abuse that represents an opportunity for your business. If you're like making $1 million, then you can expect to be somewhere around 50K to 100K, just minimum net new revenue from stopping account sharing. The bigger you are, the bigger target you have on your back, the more you should be willing to invest in the protection and the more ROI you should expect.
If you run a membership site or an e-learning site, chances are a lot of the people logging in and using your site don't actually pay you. They got the login from a friend or a colleague or an account sharing group. My guest today has turned tens of thousands of those people into paying customers. Ahmed Saleh is the founder and CEO of Rupt, a platform that detects account sharing, payment fraud, and fake accounts for subscription businesses. He built it after his own company bled revenue to account sharing. Today, we're talking about the revenue leak that almost no membership site owners are talking about and how to recover it without alienating a single paying member. Ahmed, welcome to MemberFix Radio.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So, on a membership site or an e-learning site, let's say somebody has an account and they wind up sharing it with a friend or a colleague. And before you know it, you have maybe 5 people sharing a login. How common is this really? And how typical is this for a larger subscription business? And why don't most operators know about this?
So your question is 2 parts. First one is, how common is this? And the answer to that is it's fairly common. And there are a few parameters that control the spread of the account sharing. And generally speaking, we've done a study a couple of years ago of what percentage of accounts are being shared in subscription businesses, generic study. And we found that within memberships, like e-learning memberships, it was actually one of the highest target of account sharing, which makes sense because it's easy. There's no personalization. It's not like you have an inbox or an email, which is very personal to you. In e-learning, the value is right there. You just go and you consume it and you move on. Or a membership, you can consume the most valuable part of the product without compromising something about you, like an inbox or a CRM. So it ranked very high, and we've seen something as low as 5% to as high as 45% in account sharing in e-learning and memberships. Now, there are other types like where we've seen a lot lower, but somewhere between 5 to 45 of accounts are being shared. With the majority, so this is the wide between the smallest to the highest. The majority of membership sites fall somewhere around 15 to 20% of accounts being shared. As far as why don't people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to reiterate, that's a pretty staggering number.
It is generally high. And it is a substantial issue for many companies. And if they do something about it, it can have a high impact on the business. And the impact can be in 2 ways. It can be in reducing your costs, your support costs, your running costs, your LLM costs, your tracking costs, whatever costs you have. And it can also be a good, like a needle mover for your revenue numbers too, if you do it properly, which is why big streaming companies have finally come after it, right? Netflix, Disney, all of these guys, they've really, really moved into stopping this because it is a meaningful number. And then the second part of the question is, why aren't people more aware of that? And to answer that, I'll tell you a little bit about how we got started or how this became a thing for us or for me personally. In my previous company, which was in fact in the e-learning space, we charged by the instructor, right, or by the seat for access. And an institution would start with us and they'd have like 30, 40 instructors, but then we would see their subscriptions just go lower to 4 or 5, but their usage kept going higher and higher and higher. Guess why? Because they figured that, hey, we can just share it. There's no mechanism to stop us. Now, we had searched high and low for a really good, easy to use platform that would tell me which logins are being shared and how many people are sharing them, so we can quantify, like, is this worth going after? Is this not worth going after? What can we do about it? There's a staggering gap in the tooling to figure out, to figure this out. I've seen like data analysts running a bunch of numbers and like going through the data and giving some estimates, but a lot of the tooling that they use to figure out those numbers are just not built for account sharing detection. So the best they can do is give some generic estimates. And therefore this results in like, okay, nobody really knows the extent of the problem. We have some guesses, we have some theories, we have some thoughts, but we don't really know exactly the numbers. And that's eventually ended up being one of the first products that Rupt built. And we actually ended up inventing a new technology to figure out device IDs versus the industry standard of browser fingerprints, which then tells us who and how many devices are using your product, and are they the same person or are they a different person? And we are able to finally tell the exact numbers.
Amazing. If a membership site owner or an e-learning business or subscription business owner wanted to have an idea or get some kind of idea of the extent of the problem, and you quoted a range, but if there were some back of the napkin math where they could sort of conservatively assume that X% of their member base is sharing, or maybe another way to look at it is they could recover Y amount of revenue. Is there some kind of rule of thumb that you like to apply?
Yes. And I'll give you like a final number to like just a kind of like a ballpark figure for people to kind of assume that they can recover. And then we'll dive into a little bit of some details or some back of napkin math that they can run.
Mm-hmm.
But for the majority of membership sites, e-learning sites, they can assume somewhere between a 5% range revenue, just net new revenue. This can go like 5 to 10% easy. So if you're like making $1 million, then you can expect to be like somewhere around, $50K to $100K, just minimum net new revenue from stopping account sharing. Now, it depends a little bit more on your pricing. And it depends on your volume, and it depends on how you apply account sharing prevention. But the parameters that go into it are as follows. If you assume that you have like the minimum numbers, you have like 20% people sharing, and then out of those 20% of the people, you're not going to convert all of them. Anybody who tells you that you're going to convert all of them, it's telling you, it's not telling the truth. And how many people are these accounts being shared with? So a single account is shared if more than one person is using it. But how many people are using it? Is it just 2? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 10? I've seen the number as high as 120. With my own eyes, I have seen an account being used by 120 people in one single week. So yeah, fantastic. From a single, wow, on the other hand, but also like, hey, great opportunity. You have 120 people who are loving your product, who are using your product, who are accessing it in a single week. And this is an opportunity for you to go and market to a very hot, like people, just perfect target, because they know your product, they love it, they use it, they just have to pay for it. So if you assume a 20%, then for e-learning, you have a higher conversion rate. So you can expect somewhere between 30 to 60% conversion rate out of those 20%. So you're looking roughly at around 10% growth from that, just average. And I know I started like 5%. That can be a minimum expectation. You can definitely have more. Highest I've seen is about a 20% growth, just net new revenue. This isn't like on saving. This doesn't include how much you save from all those additional people using and straining your services and text messages and authentication and tracking. And so it reduces your cost and increases your revenue. That is the back of napkin math that you can use. Number of assumed percentage of people share, of accounts being shared. Assume how many people are being shared with. So if they 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever, like assume that they have like 2 people, if you want to do that math. And then how many of those can you convert if you properly protected your memberships? And generally for e-learning, you could go for like a 30%-ish conversion rate, 30 to 60%.
Yeah, and the great thing about a product like Rupt is that it basically will pay for itself, right? So even it obviously is going to make more sense for a larger site with more members, and that's where you're going to see the bigger leverage, right? But for any site past some threshold of decent revenue, you could say, okay, well, even if it recovers a small percentage of revenue in total, in absolute dollar amount, okay, but compound that over the course of years and just keep Rupt running. And as long as you make more as a result than what you've paid for Rupt, you're always winning. So you kind of have a really wonderful pricing model. And it's very similar to something like Churn Buster, where again, if you can recover more churned revenue than you pay for the tool, you're ROI positive. Why wouldn't you do it? And what's really interesting about Rupt, and one of the reasons I've been so bullish on it and have been telling people about it, is the unique way that you look at the psychology of recovering the shared accounts. Can you talk a little bit about how you sort of nudge people, or you give even the account owner the option of how aggressive or how diplomatic they want to be?
Mm-hmm. So you raised two very, very important points, and I'm glad you did, because when people think about sharing or account sharing protection, they sometimes forget to think about those specific points. The first point you said is account sharing should pay for itself, or account sharing prevention should pay for itself. And you're 100% right. Account sharing prevention should pay for itself many times over, because whether you're using Rupt or any other tool, but like, I'm biased here, but I'm pretty sure Rupt is the best tool in the market for it. In fact, nothing even comes close, but that's another story. When you protect against account sharing, any user that you convert is additive revenue. That's just net new revenue that you brought through this tool. Now, let's say, I'm just going to give an example here for the math. You pay $100 a month for the tool, whatever tool that you use for account sharing protection. Then you convert, on the first month, let's say 2 users. Now each user is paying you $30 a month. That's $60. That's 60% of cost recovered. And on the second month, you convert an additional 2 people. You didn't just add $60. You added $60 the first month and $60 the second month. So that's already $120 in MRR. So you've already ROI positive. And then anything after that is just more and more and more and more and more. So when you're calculating your account sharing protection costs and benefits, make sure to include the entire timeline. Don't just include like the monthly net new conversions. How much revenue has it resulted in from the time you integrated it to now? And make sure you include the proper MRR calculation. So that's number one.
And you actually have a calculator on the website on rupt.dev that people can punch in some numbers and model what it would look like to.
Yes, 100%. And we do have that calculation, so you can generally estimate how many conversions you expect, and then it will just give you the accumulation. So when you do the math, that is one point that trips people, is they forget to use the additive, like the monthly net new conversions. Generally speaking, this is a very, very lucrative opportunity for most people. And then your second point, when does it make sense? It makes sense for obviously larger organizations or like people who are making like significant traction or significant revenue, only in the sense that they're also a bigger target. The bigger you are, the bigger the target on your back is. The better your product, the better, the more you charge. We have customers who charge for a single course, they charge $4,000 or $5,000, and just one single conversion for them is like worth a lot of money. So the bigger you are, the bigger target you have on your back, the more you should be willing to invest in the protection, and the more ROI you should expect. The psychology. Yes, and this is fantastic. And the psychology of account sharers. Account sharing is kind of, I would say, is a nice form of fraud or nice form of abuse, because it is one of the few forms of abuse that represents an opportunity for your business, because these are people who just genuinely love your product and love your membership and love your knowledge and love the content that you have, and they want to use it. And they are using it. They're just not properly paying for it. So it's a huge opportunity for you to just have a direct channel with those users, speak directly at them, and try to get them to convert to your product. You should not, when it comes to account sharing, there are two reasons to do account sharing protection. One is you want to get the extra revenue from those customers. And two, you want to decrease the costs that you have. There's a third reason for different companies who control the logins, is they don't want the credentials to leak, right? Because that will give you more headaches later. Because if you share it with somebody, you don't know if it ends up in a reseller account or if it ends up in a group buying operation. You want to protect that for most customers. We are all in the business of making money, and this is a really great opportunity. So when you're going after account shares, it's not just enough to stop them or just block them. You can do that, but that's not the best user experience. The best user experience would be like, hey, we detected that you're a sharer. Would you like to create your own account? And Netflix, again, is a just great example of this. But if you try sharing with Netflix, they'll tell you, hey, we've detected multiple accounts or multiple people. Why don't you create your own account? We'll give you a 7-day free trial, or we'll give you this incentive, or the first month is going to be use this coupon to get this. The beautiful thing about Rupt is it includes all of that for you. And any other solution that you use, just make sure you include this. It includes all of that for you. So you can experiment, you can try a discount, you can try a free month, you can try this. And not only then did you stop the account sharing, reduce your costs, but you also got new leads. If they sign up, you get their email, and you can continue to send them offers, and you have them. And you should track those. Again, all this is rough, but you should track who converted from an account sharing dialogue, from an account sharing a message. And again, the more they use, the more they get to see this offer again and again and again. And as any product manager or anybody who works in product will tell you, you will get, the more you show your message to the users, the more people will act on that message. In fact, from our experiments, 60% of the conversions that happen from account sharing happen after the 10th challenge. So they use it multiple times, and after the 10th challenge, 60% of the conversions come.
So it's pretty fascinating, because you're not wagging your finger at people. You're not trying to punish them for screwing you, basically, but you're saying, hey, it's okay. We still love you.
Yeah.
Have a free trial. You're killing them with kindness, essentially. As you said, these people already have a relationship with your brand, presumably, or maybe even if they're just flirting with your content, or they just want to understand more before spending money. Some people do that too, and say, oh, great, I get a free trial. I was using Jim's account, but now I have the opportunity to. And then after, 10 or so times, you're like, okay, I'll do a free trial, because you're so polite about it. And that's what I really think is, there's a lot of brilliant stuff, like your proprietary technology for detecting the account sharing down to the device, but also just the intelligent way that you position the conversion conversation as not this shameful thing, bad customer, but it's like, hey, I get it. I grew up in the Napster era. It's all good. I've torrented stuff. It's not a crime. Maybe it is a crime, but look, here's what we'll do for you. Let's focus on how we can help you more. And frankly, people actually don't value stuff that they don't pay for.
Yes.
Very few people, let's say, value stuff that they don't pay for. So you're actually arguably doing these folks a favor that says, hey, if this is truly interesting to you, why don't you invest in it so that you care about it, so then you're more likely to get the results that you're allegedly seeking?
Yeah.
That is what you want, isn't it?
So again, you raise a good point, and I'm it's not surprising, because you're very close to your audience and to your memberships, and these are really good points. And we have had a lot of experience working with that. And I'll tell you 3 points on what you just said. One is, why do people share? Right? You mentioned that, hey, I'm using Jim's account. I'm trying it out. I already have a relationship with this. And there are multiple reasons people share. People share for like they can't afford it, or hey, it's just a thing we do. It's just easy. It's honestly sometimes just easier than signing up and creating your own account and blah blah blah. It's just super simple. Just give me this login. I'll log in and I'll get the value and move on. So that's the second reason. For people who are just doing it for convenience, all it takes is a single challenge, and that's why 40% convert on the first few challenges. 40%. It's a good number because it's just convenient. It's just more convenient. So give them a little more pressure to convert, and they will. And then the second cohort is people who cannot afford it. I get it. Sometimes you cannot afford it, so you have to run some discounts. You have to run like whatever you do, but not every product is for everybody, right? And as a founder, sometimes I feel a little bad saying this, but sometimes you have to know how to position your product, right? There are people who can afford it. So not affording is a special case, and you can handle it however you want. But sometimes people can afford it, but they're just never going to pay. And those, you should not allow to use your product. Like if somebody has made up their mind that they're not going to pay for your product, you have value, you're bringing something, and they bring you nothing. That's just not the right customer for you. That's just incurring, unending cost for you on the sharing and the psychology of sharing. There's one more reason, and I will never forget this. A product leader at a company called Sketchy, they're a customer of Rupt, and they've been a customer for a long time, and we have a very good relationship with them. And they sat down with me, and I asked them, like, how did you figure out people are sharing? He said, how did you figure out people were sharing your product? And they said, we went to the schools and we asked them, how do you get access to Sketchy? And they said, our friend is sharing it with us. I love this product so much. I told everybody in class. I share it with everybody in class. Guys, you should use this product. Here's my login. Please go ahead. And they're like, we kind of feel good and bad at the same time, because they didn't even know that by sharing this product, they were hurting us, right? And when we let them know that, then they were just very receptive to sharing. Like, hey, if you want us to continue to serve you, you kind of have to not share it. This is hurting us. So some of them don't even know that they're hurting sharing. And then finally, you mentioned it's not an accusatory, like you want to be gentle and nice about converting those account sharers into paying customers, because you do want them to be happy and paying customers. You don't want to get into a confrontation with them. And very, very beginning, when we first started, a company they installed the tool, they got all the numbers. These guys are sharing. These guys are definitely sharing. These guys are definitely sharing. These guys were in Berlin one day, in New York an hour later, and they used it more than 99.999% of all the other customers. Okay, there's like plenty of people. So initially, they thought, hey, if we turn on the automated challenges, it's going to hurt our customers. It's going to seem accusatory. Let's email them and let's talk to them and see if they can convert. What happened, so they picked like a list of 10 or 20 or 30, I can't remember exactly, but they picked a list and they emailed them. What happened was they got into an awkward conversation with the customer. Like the customer saying, we're not sharing. We don't do that. Why are you accusing us of doing that? They're like, well, we have data that shows you here and here. It's like, I don't know, that's not right. Not all customers are going to do that, but some will deny it. And it turned out that this customer had a few employees that were sharing, but they didn't know. They had a policy, you shouldn't share. But they were sharing, and somehow it just leaked. The credentials leaked, and then they have a ton of people using the company account. But it still didn't spare them the awkward conversation, where you can have an automated tool that's highly accurate, highly reliable. You should never 100% block people. Never. For account sharing, you should never 100% block people. You should always give them a way to verify their ownership and continue. If they are the owner, right? Hey, verify your ownership via two-factor authentication, email, phone, whatever, and then continue on your merry way. So eventually they came back to us and like, hey, trust us. We will guarantee, we will pay you if it doesn't work out. Turn on the automated challenges. The owner always has a way to enter if they are in fact the owner. And if they come back to you and say, hey, your system is wrong, blame it on us. Say, hey, this was an error on the system. We'll fix it. And we will do that. We will whitelist these guys and they don't see anything. Lo and behold, they recovered more than $1 million in ARR. Yeah. Well, they recovered more than $1 million in ARR and they're happy customer sets.
And these are folks in their organization. So where did the revenue come from, or was it external to the organization?
So
that colleagues were sharing with their friends or whatever.
So the people who recovered were the membership, right? Our customer. What happened was, yes, these are like friends and family. It just leaked. It just went on it was a wild west kind of thing, where the credentials leaked. Many different organizations were using it. But it turns out those were perfect audience for customer. When they turned it on, then all of those guys got the message, hey, you need to create your own account, you need to create an account. And they were all part of external organizations. So they just got a lot of new customers.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And you said so much interesting stuff there. In the first place, I think what philosophically, what I like about Rupt or any product that essentially recognizes the reality of life on Earth, in the simulation, which is that people are not angels or devils, by the way, but they're driven by a system of incentives.
Yes.
And so if you create the right incentives, if you're considerate of the actual psychology of people instead of doing what feels, because it might feel temporarily satisfying to be like, oh, all these people sharing, I'm going to bust out the machine gun and just like you rip them a new one. It's like, okay, cool. But do you want to do that or do you want to make money?
Yeah.
I used to tell people, and I still believe this generally speaking, that the people who are like, cause we sell plugins, right? We sell WordPress plugins. And the thing in WordPress is that you can just download a plugin and then you can use it. Or sometimes it'll find itself in a reseller club because WordPress is open source itself. And then the plugins inside of WordPress are also by extension open source. People don't realize that the distinguishing thing, which is that you actually pay for support. You actually pay for updates and support. So you can download a plugin that's, $500 a year, and you can own it and use it. You can even fork it and resell it. You just are not entitled to the support and the future updates from the plugin vendor. And, people have argued both sides of that, but that's actually the case as far as the GPL rules go. And so my philosophy has always been like, don't worry about the people who are going to steal your stuff. There's nothing you could do about it. Well, now there is, right? But previously there was nothing you could do about it. It's actually kind of a flattering thing if your plugin is good enough to be stolen and shared. But those people were probably never going to pay you anyway. But what I'm seeing here, and I think this is the nuance, is that actually some of those people would pay you anyway. And it's a win-win really for everybody.
Yeah. And like you said, there were multiple things that didn't exist before that do exist now. One is the tools. The tooling wasn't there. The tooling was just very hard and just not easy to build. And we are proud to have built something that gives people the tooling to figure out, hey, we know exactly who's doing that, and we have a way to stop them now. Not only that, but to offer them when we have a targeted messaging. And then two is a lot of people don't necessarily share maliciously. They did not know that this is also hurting the product that they love so much. And once they did know that, then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And you have to be you have to do it properly. There's a lot of nuance on how to do it, when to do it, why to do it. It benefits. It's a benefit when you have somebody who is who has specialty in this, that they've really tested it and seen a lot of results and optimized it. I point to the bit when Netflix first rolled out their account sharing prevention, their revenues went through the roof, and their stock went through the roof. And I remember that quarter, I'm like, oh, yeah, makes sense. But I've been in this fraud space and abuse space for quite some time, and it's all about the calculation. It's just all about the math. You have to make the math not friendly to abuse. I have another customer who is just part of the abuse story. Same nuance. They create fake accounts and they test out credit cards, credit card after credit card after credit card, and they go straight to the checkout page and they do APIs. And the team came to us and said, hey, we need some help. These guys are just hammering us. All of our bills are going up. Our tracking is going up. Our auth bills are going up. We need some help. Eventually, they saw that, hey, we need to do a bunch of few different protections. Then Rupt came in and did the protections. They have to have devices. Their devices must be attached. They have to have legitimate usage before they go straight to the checkout page. It can't be sign up immediately checkout. Same IPs restriction. Like there's a ton of stuff. Does that mean nobody can get through this? No, people can. People just, there's no foolproof ever solution anywhere in the world that stops fraud or abuse ever at all. With enough dedicated resources and smart engineers, who has the time and money, unless you're like an incredibly big agency who's dedicated to ruining the world? People can get through any product in the world, any online product in the world. Why do people not do it? Because the math ain't mathin'. The math is not in their favor. So it's just about making it hard enough for abusers not to abuse you. And it's a race. It's always a race. But account sharing, again, with what we've built, at least with Rupt, is one powerful, powerful tool that is always there, always improving, always learning, always hyper-focused and hyper-optimized on making sure you get the best and most up-to-date information. And you kind of like share this hive mind of intelligence that we've collected from all the data that we have seen and centralized about which accounts share, which locations share, which devices share, and then optimize it for conversions, for growth. Because we have seen, and the final thing that I will follow up on what you just said is like not being vindictive, is the final thing that we've seen is that we've seen some people ruin their own product in order to stop this. For example, limiting the user to a single session, meaning, hey, if I open a second tab, if I'm on your product and I just want to open a second tab to do something on the same product, it will log me out of the first. I cannot. I can only have a single tab, or I have to, every single time I log in, I have to do two-factor authentication, and I have to do this and I have to do that. So they ruin the user experience in order to protect it, where you don't have to do that. You can rely on more intelligent signals and only issue challenges or only issue messages when you detect the proper and the right signals that this account is being shared. And you get the benefits of like protecting the user and also getting new customers and users and growth.
Man, you make me think of a few things, Ahmed. One is that, well, user experience, it's an elusive, obvious thing, right? It's subtle in that you as the user, you don't necessarily feel a good user experience, but you acutely feel a bad user experience. Yes. And it makes me think of an app that we use in our organization that, just as an example, it's a decent app overall, I would say. But once you log in, I think the session cookie is maybe a day. So every time we need to get back into the app, we have to re-log in. And there's no real sensitive data there, arguably. So it's unnecessarily strict, and it annoys the shit out of me, basically. And
you dread logging in there.
Yeah, well, it's like, dude, like, why? You know, it doesn't make any sense. And so, but we decided to build our own, because now with AI and, you know, we're a technical team, we said, well, we could just not pay the subscription on this app and build our own. And it's not going to have these things that we don't want. It's going to have everything that we do want. And that comes with its own set of challenges, and it's not because they make you log in all the time. We're not, but it's one of those little things. It's just like, you know what? I don't need this crap. Yeah. You know, and you stack enough of those little annoyances and people, they start to feel a different way about your product. Yes. You know, and you also mentioned that's an interesting scenario that made me think of basically like the incentive structure, right? We had a client who was hacked, and it was a pretty bad hack, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It was a leaked admin password from another user from a long time ago. And basically we came in, we cleaned everything up, and then we sat down internally. We said, okay, guys, what can we do to make sure that this never happens to the client again? Or, as you said, it's not Nothing's 100%. But how can we make it so annoying and painful and just a bad target for a threat actor to even bother with this? And we kind of came up with an 80-20 there where we would say, okay, everybody in the organization who's an administrator or anybody who logs into the site as an administrator has to be routed through their own unique static IP, which we will issue through our own VPN client. There's an open source VPN client that can do this. And that alone is going to stop a lot of the problems. In addition to that, we're also going to lock down the file system so that you can't write to any of the plugin files. You can't install or modify plugins or themes. And it's like, okay, so somebody first would have to get admin access. If they had admin access, they would only be able to log in if they're on a whitelisted IP. And if somehow they were able to spoof an IP, which I don't think they could, because they're all unique, then once they got into the site, the damage they could do was very limited. And so it's like, yes, it would still be possible for someone to go in and tamper, but it would be so much work for a threat actor that they're easier fish. And so again, it's just about setting up these incentive structures where the maths, essentially, as you put it.
Right. 100%. I will just follow up on what you said with one thing. The math is in favor of the creator, of the member, of not the attacker, defender. That should be more incentive for you to set up a proper protection posture.
Right. Makes sense. So Ahmed, is there a potential downside? Can there be a situation where somebody is a paying member, they're a legit paying member, but maybe they travel a lot. Maybe they have several devices. And, if account sharing is done in a slipshod fashion, perhaps that person will feel punished that, oh, my login attempts were limited, or it kicked out my iPad because I'm in Berlin today and the IP address is different. How do you prevent that kind of situation?
That's a really good question. Again, a bit of a compound question is like, is there a situation where you shouldn't be protecting account sharing? And then the second question is there a wrong way to do it? So the first one is there a situation where like account sharing is no good? I'll say two places where you shouldn't protect against account sharing. One is if you have a free product. Right? If your product is free, or if you have a free plan, don't protect people on the free plan. There's no reason to do it. You only want to protect paid stuff from account sharing, at least just from account sharing. I want to be very specific. And then the second thing is if you're still small enough, if your product is, let's say, $10 or less a month, and you don't have volumes, massive volumes such as Netflix or the other ones, not the time. Wait. Or if your product is, let's say, anywhere less than $49 a month, and you have less than 100 users, you probably better to wait, because the math, there's just not enough sharers in your customers yet. Once you have more than that, typically around starting 500, and if your product is high value, if it's $100+ a month, then sharing is it doesn't matter. Your single conversion is probably going to pay for any tool that you use, and then you'll definitely get more. But generally speaking, account sharing protection is pretty much always recommended. Always. The question is, which gets to your second point, don't do it in a sloppy way. Do it properly. Do it well. Invest well in doing that, or work with somebody who specializes in doing that. You mentioned something like traveling from one place to the other. Yeah, if you do it in a sloppy way, you're just going to block people left and right, and that's going to leave a bad taste, and you're just going to alienate your own users. And so if you're going to do it, make sure you have a good set of rules and definitions of what is an impossible travel. Do people who use VPNs go into that? So if somebody's using a VPN and they were in Germany on a VPN, and then 2 minutes later they're in Switzerland, but they're not on VPN, should that even count as an impossible travel? So the good thing about using Rupt is we've already thought about all of that stuff for you and built it for you and have the data to wire it up. So If you're going to do that in an incorrect way, you will have some churn. But if you do it properly, I would say there's no reason not to do it. I'll give you some examples of some of the edge cases that Rupt handles. For example, impossible travel. One of the conditions for impossible travel to happen is that it has to be without a VPN or a known relay or a proxy. So unless it's a genuine residential impossible travel, it won't happen. And then there's a definition. What does impossible travel mean? It has to be more than 500 kilometers, and it has to be on a time window that is impossible to do even through airplanes or fastest possible travel. And then there's a buffer there, and there has to be no VPN or proxy, and it has to be within a specific time window. So it cannot be, if it didn't happen in the last whatever time, then just ignore it. And it also has to be of the same network type. So it cannot be a mobile and a computer, because in some mobile networks, for example, in my mobile network, it goes to Chicago, but I'm in California. And if I use it from my mobile to my computer, then it will count as, for most detection systems, it'll count as impossible travel. For account sharing specifically, you kind of want to err on the side of caution, not err on the side of like getting more revenue. Don't be greedy. You'll still get a lot more. You'll still get more than 3x to 10x, sometimes 20x of your cost. But don't overdo it, because it will turn your users against you if you do it incorrectly. But the rewards are great if you do it correctly. That's the incentive. Another edge case. Concurrency is a good indicator. People have to be, if you have two computers, if you have two people connected at the same time, that's a very strong signal of people doing account sharing. But you cannot just look at, did an IP address come here and then an IP address came here, and that means it's two different people. No. That's not what it means at all. That could genuinely be the same person going from their cellular hotspot to their cafe Wi-Fi network, and it could look like two different IPs very quickly. For example, the way Rupt measures it, they have to be connected, actively connection, like an active funnel connection at the very same time. And we go to great lengths and great pains, and actually great cost for us to keep and maintain like a small live connection, live polling connection from a device. So they have to be actively with a live connection connected to your website, and they have to be from two different IP addresses, and they have to be from the same device class. So I can be connected to your website or to your product or to your membership from my phone and from my computer. That's fine. Or from my phone and my computer and my iPad. That's fine at the same time. Unlikely, but possible. It's unreasonable to assume that I will have two computers right in front of me, and I'm the same person, and I'm connected at the same time, but from two different networks, from two different IP addresses. That's just unreasonable to assume. Or from two different iPhones or two different phones at the very same time. I'm like using one or the other. So we use all of those psychology events and likelihoods and reasonable assumptions to figure out who's sharing how, why, and what, and when. And if you're going to do something, make sure you do all of those and you calculate all of those. And the final note I'll say on that is, with account sharing, you want persistence, and you only want to act when you have good enough certainty. And when you do act, we already talked about this, you don't act in an accusatory way, you act in an incentive way. Always start with good intent. And then only act when you have enough evidence with high enough confidence to the contrary. And sharers, they don't just share once. The majority, they just share, like, it just happens. It's an ongoing thing. So if you don't catch them the first time, second time, third time, it will happen. You will catch them. And because of that, you should err on the side of caution. And with account sharing, unlike, for example, a bank, where every time you log in, I'm happy to see a two-factor authentication. I don't want anybody to log into my bank account, right? Anytime they see any small little tiny detail or small little change, I want two-factor authentication. That's fine. Unlike that, account sharing, you're telling them, hey, we think you're doing something wrong, right? So you want to be cautious when you do that.
Makes sense. You want to not inconvenience them or make the experience punitive without even knowing first if they're actually sharing. But even if you've confirmed that they are, you're still not trying to hurt their experience. You're You're trying to make a sale. As we were talking before our podcast, right? It's this dichotomy between doing what feels in the moment satisfying, which will probably not feel satisfying right after, which is like, screw you, like you guys, you're screwing us, blah, 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 versus like, do you want that or do you want to make money? Entrepreneurs probably get this because you beat your head against the wall enough times that you realize that that other way doesn't really work. So you have to do this other very counterintuitive way. But I think a lot of people probably don't get this because it is so counterintuitive, but it works.
It does work. It does work.
Is there a way to use Rupt just to see what's happening, but you can't actually benefit from the nudging? In other words, is there like a free way for people to see like, oh man, I didn't realize all these accounts are being shared, but I can't do all the nudging or the emails or the challenges or whatever until I pay for Rupt? Or would that just be too taxing on your infrastructure?
So there is a way to do that, but there was a way to do that in the previous versions, but it started getting out of hand. It's just when it got too big, it started getting too much. So what we did instead was there was a trial, like you can get a trial, like a 2-week trial, and you're able to see who's sharing how many, what's the math if I actually started preventing account sharing. Does it make sense or not? And then we removed that as we got bigger and we started working with more and more like bigger accounts. Just support costs are too much now, so we can't afford to kind of handhold every new person who signs up. But for your audience, we can actually make it a special, like make an exception for them and give them a specific link with a code for your audience. And if they sign up through you, they get that part again. So they get the 2-week, so it can tell them which accounts are sharing and how many people they're sharing it with, and like what's their opportunity if they protect.
Ahmed, that would be amazing. That's very generous. That's really awesome. Okay, so Rupt integrates with WordPress. Is it a hard thing to do? Most of our clients that we work with, our ecosystem is WordPress primarily. So how does Rupt play with WordPress?
Rupt in general is a very easy integration, specifically for account sharing. It's a very, very easy integration. With WordPress, it's just downloading the plugin, putting it in there, and then literally just a few settings here and there. And that's it. It runs off on its own. In fact, we kind of keep hearing this again and again. Is like, hey, like one of the beautiful things about this is just runs in the background. It doesn't bother anybody. It doesn't bother me at all. Just does its thing. So I'd say it's very simple.
Perfect. Amazing. Beyond account sharing, what other behaviors should operators be aware of? Things like maybe serial free trial takers, self-referrers, that kind of thing?
Right. So this actually, okay, man, like a quick disclaimer here. We can probably do a podcast episode about each and every individual abuse behavior here. Like what you just said, like incentive abuse, like, hey, referring myself and then just signing up from different, browser or different device. And trial farming, right? Trial again and again and again and again. Generally speaking, they all, a lot of the types of fraud rely on the same infrastructure for detecting this behavior. That's why you see fraud companies, right? Not just, we were kind of the odd ones out when we started as account sharing only. That's why we built like such deep knowledge and integration around account sharing, because we started with one single focused use case. But generally speaking, because of the way the technology is built, it shares a lot of the same structure, the same underlying data, same underlying intelligence of how to detect this type of fraud. It depends for your membership, for your SaaS, it depends. Each individual vertical has more prevalent fraud types than others. I'll give you an example. For marketplaces, for example, we have job marketplace customers, we have commercial or real estate marketplace companies. Job marketplace companies, they experience fake jobs, people who put a fake job post, and then they get the information of the applicants, and then they try to sell them courses or try to sell them, they're not real courses, they're fake courses, they're just fake, not even courses, certificates. They say, hey, we're going to hire you and like you're great, but you need this certificate to get this job. So here's the link to get this job, and just go pay $4,000. And then they scam this poor applicant who was looking for a job for $4,000 or $5,000 to get a fake certificate. And for memberships specifically, or WordPress, account takeover, free trial, and free trial abuse after free trial after free trial, or just referring themselves again and again and again, is definitely common. But how common it is depends a lot on the structure of your incentives, on the structure of your product, and on your payment. There's even more, but they are generally controlled by the platform, the host platform. For example, payment fraud is a huge one, but it's very common in e-commerce. So it depends, and it's owned by the platform that's hosting your product. The good thing is, should you decide to go after those two, including scraping, right, or like blocking people from stealing your content, then you get the benefit. Hopefully, I always vote people use Rupt for their fraud prevention and abuse prevention. But if you do use different platforms, if you have one unified platform, you will get the benefit of the 360 view for fraud. Like, for example, Rupt, it gets all of those in one place, so it gets to see the benefits. You get the benefits of seeing the user from the moment they log in all the way to their use of the product, to if they're doing suspicious things, continuously being monitored, not just at login, not just at checkout. So if you decide to go after that, you will get benefit in history and data to prevent the other types of fraud. But I would say, like, the two types is just scraping. People want to be careful a little bit about people scraping your data. I think that hurts a little bit more. And then the second one is scamming. If you have, let's say, run a community or a membership, you want to be aware of people just scamming your users, like going and messaging everybody on the platform, or just annoying the hell out of them. Trying to get them off the platform. We've seen this again and again and again, and it's on the rise because, again, remember what I told you about the math? Has to math out. AI made that cheaper. AI gave you a lot of tools and power, but AI made that cheaper for attackers to come and, like, hey, go through every user on this platform and try to message them, boom, 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 boom. And the math it's using their own computer on their own platform with their own IP, with their own, like, it just looks like a normal user. So you can't just rely on that. You have to rely on, like, behavior monitoring. Are they doing good or bad things on your platform? So yeah, we're in for quite a turbulent few years ahead.
Amazing, Ahmed. Thank you so much for coming on MemberFix Radio and sharing your wisdom. And if you want to protect your site from account sharing, Ahmed very generously offered to extend a special 2-week free trial where you can essentially install the Rupt plugin. You can see how your accounts are being shared on your site, and you can also see how much you stand to recover in revenue. So it's basically risk-free. You just see what's going on, and then if you see that people are indeed sharing accounts, you can project how much revenue you can recover, how many new customers, members you can bring in, and then you just flip the switch, pay for your account, and it'll pay for itself. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer.
Thank you very much, Vic. It's my pleasure to be with you.
So click on the link in the description to go get your free 2-week trial of Rupt today.